run a YouTube channel. There is lots of collateral here if you would care to see it. I do kind of funny educational videos such as why we shake hands and the history of books. So I was asked to present on how to survive the zombie apocalypse, and I have here some of my fellow friends and experts. And you can come on in, or you can walk away. That's cool. There will be more resources for the rest of us as we learn later. So in addition to experts, we also have our test zombie. All right. So I'd like everyone to go down and they can introduce themselves as well.
Sure. So my name is Whitney Beltran. You can call me Strix. It's a lot easier to pronounce. I am an ex-park ranger. I served with the National Park Service in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and I am actually a mythologist. Don't ask me what that means because we're all still trying to figure it out. But I am a PhD student at Pacifica Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara, and my dissertation is on myth and depth psychological approaches. So I'll be handling the voodoo mythy stuff for this panel.
My name's Craig. I have a background in martial arts, contact sports, firearms, and I'm kind of an expert in practical applications of violence.
Hello, my name is Emily Green, and I am an expert zombie handler, and I worked with Doctor Who and Dr. Frankenstein before I started working with the Knoweldge Fairy.
Doctor Who?
No, just the doctor.
Never mind. And this is James.
Our zombie friend will be handling him. We will use him throughout our demonstration.
He's our test zombie. All right, so there are really 3 phases to this panel, as well as the 3 phases that are important to zombie survival, and those are fleeing, surviving, and rebuilding. All right, now can anyone answer why it's important to flee zombies?
They'll kill you.
They will kill you, that's right.
They're highly contagious.
They are highly contagious. Anyone else? And actually, we give candy for answers. We are not above bribery.
Unsanitary.
Unsanitary, that's right.
Brains.
I can't throw well. Here. Brains. That's not even an answer. We will still give you candy. All right, so one of the important reasons to flee is because
disgusting.
They are disgusting. That's right. Don't use her. He's disgusting. And while you can fight a zombie, you'll notice they're really kind of slow. They're not that smart. You can fight a zombie, but you can't necessarily fight all the zombies. Now, can I get like a volunteer? Okay, you stand up. All right, so you can probably fight off a zombie, right? But now, could you fight off the entire horde of zombies? That's right. Now, can everyone stand up? Everyone. Now pretend you're all the zombies. And you're all looking at her. Okay, all right, great job. Let's give her a high five. All right, you can get a prize. You get a prize. All right, you want a calculator or a keychain?
Calculate how many zombies you're going to fight.
All right, way to go. Yeah. All right, thank you. So that's one of the reasons why, it's important to know how to flee. Because you can't fight off all the zombies. Although we will get into what to do if you're faced with a zombie a little later on. So one of the important things to know is how to detect a zombie. Because early on, zombie detection is very important to know when to flee. And very early on, anyone could be a zombie. I mean, if you look to the left, look to the person to the left of you, you hold up a hand, and the L, that's your left. And you look to the right, those people might be an early zombie.
There's one.
Uh-oh. All right, and to explain to us kind of the different types of zombies and the best ways to fight off those zombies, I will now hand the panel over to our professor and resident scholar, Strix.
All right, so what we're going to cover today is just kind of the three really basic types of zombies. There are always variations, but we're going to just kind of break it down to the simplest forms. So the zombie types that I'm going to talk about are basically viral zombies, chemically induced by warfare, Resident Evil type zombies. Then I'm going to get into classical Hellmouth zombies, the ones that kind of just jump out of the earth because, it's the end of the world. And then I'm going to talk a whole lot about zombies in voodoo, or voodoo as it's called in the States. And this is supposed to be really fun and engaging for a Western audience, but I'm just going to take a moment to say that voodoo is a very, very significant spiritual practice. It's very serious. So while we are meant to make this entertaining, just know that no disrespect is intended. So that being said, let's talk about viral zombies. These are probably the most popular type right now in the media. Movies like Resident Evil doing very well. These types of zombies usually come in a couple different subcategories. So you have your shamblers, you have maybe your runners. These zombies tend to be a little bit fast. And as we're seeing as they evolve in cinema, they're starting to think, which is really, really scary. So hopefully that doesn't actually happen, because then you probably wouldn't do so well. So with viral zombies, the thing to remember is the disease is probably communicable. So do not, under any circumstances, get bit.
Or kiss them.
I don't know why you'd want to kiss a zombie. If you're into that, seek help. That would be you. Anyway, so viral zombies, very, very contagious. The reason why you want to identify these guys early is because you need to get away, and you need to understand that you can have no physical contact. Otherwise, the rest of your party is probably going to have to kill you. A lot of emotional trauma to get over is best avoided. Now, with the Hellmouth zombies, as I call them, these are more of a supernatural flavor. I'll reference George A. Romero at this point. Night of the Living Dead came out in the 1960s. This was really a turning point for zombies in the consciousness of the American audience. We were dealing with post-Cold War era sentiments. There was a lot of things going on. And so as a people, we channeled all of those insecure feelings into zombies. So these zombies, we're going to say for the sake of argument for this panel, that these zombies are supernatural in origin, and they have literally just popped out of their graves because hell is full and they are spilling out. Now, these are probably not contagious, but they are just as deadly because it's all the bodies everywhere. So that's a lot of dead people.
So you can kiss them.
Again, you're free to do whatever you want, long live America, but maybe you would want to get some psychoanalytic help with that. Brandy. So with these guys, honestly, you probably are going to have bigger problems than the zombies themselves, because everything is pouring out of hell. There's probably bigger demons running around. There's probably plague bears running around. Basically, you might want to decide, what's the easiest way out permanently, rather than having to face all of that. But it's rather grim. So now we're going to talk about the third and my favorite type of zombie, which is the zombies created through spiritual practices in voodoo. Now, this really took off in Haiti during and after the slave revolution there. It's the first actual slave colony to take back the land from the whites. And the way that zombification works in voodoo is actually pretty interesting. There are two types of zombies. There's zombies who are corpses, and then there are zombies astral, which means you can literally take a soul and put it in a clay pot and hide it under your bed. So we're going to talk about the corpse zombies. Now, with these type of zombies, a Bakor, which is a magical practitioner which uses bad magic, would use a variety of spells and poisons to effectively turn you into a zombie. Now, this doesn't just happen randomly. It's not like they just kind of pick you out of a crowd and go, I'm going to mess with that guy. This is part of a bigger ritual system with its own cultural rules. If you get turned into a zombie through voodoo, and it's probably because you deserved it, right? So they had a tribunal. Your crimes were read to you.
You keep looking at me.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about you for my next test subject. But basically, it's coming. So with that, I think it would be fun if we demonstrated how to use a poison to begin the process of zombification. What do you think, Brandy?
Sounds good.
Okay, that's good.
And we happen to have a test subject with us.
Oh, yes. So if you want to go ahead and put that up there.
Certainly. There. You're in charge of fixing this. All right.
So I was talking with one of my colleagues at Pacifica, and she told me she had a recipe for zombie poison. And first of all, I was like, where did you get a recipe for zombie poison? I don't even want to know. But I thought I would share it with you guys. So the principal ingredient of zombie poison is tetrodotoxin. And what that is a neurotoxin that can be found in pufferfish. Very, 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 very deadly. There is no antidote. Do not try it at home. You will die. Just gotta say that. Don't do it. So along with the tetrodotoxin, you're gonna mix in a couple of other things. You're gonna mix in the skin of a poisonous marine toad, and then several plants. Some of them are psychoactive, some of them are inert, they're for flavor. But especially you want to throw in some stinging nettles, maybe some ground up glass, anything that's going to help abrade the skin to get it absorbed. You do not want your patient to ingest the toxin. It is way, way too toxic. They'll just die instantly and you won't get a zombie out of it. So avoid that. So you want to get it on their skin.
By the way, this is for demonstration purposes only. We are not actually using the toxin thingy.
It's too expensive.
Yeah. We're substituting with flour and Italian
Are
seasoning.
you selling any after the panel?
Talk to me later.
It's tricks.
Science.
Science.
So anyway, you're going to administer this topically. You can either blow it in the face, it can be abraded in their skin. You know, there's several methods. As long as they don't ingest, you should be fine. So the toxin's going to get to work almost immediately. Almost immediately. There we go. And what you want to do is you want to check your patient for signs of life, because they shouldn't really be showing any. They should be cold to the touch, should not be able to find a heartbeat, there should be... He was already dead. It's not like it matters. Anyway, once this happens, you want to bury the body overnight. This is more of a psychological thing. You're basically reprogramming the person, wiping out all of their old memories. So when you raise them the next day, the Bakor will actually be there. They'll give them a new name, and they're actually going to shove a paste in their mouth that is made of something completely different. The analog for it is Jimson weed, local weed. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's a really powerful hallucinogenic. So they shove that in the zombie's mouth, and they really have no idea what's going on. So from there, the zombie is under the Bakor's control. So if you want to stop a zombie, kill the Bakor. Don't kill the zombie. That's not going to help.
Is there more than one application of that, like on a daily basis or weekly?
So what happens is we've historically found that they continue to feed the zombies these paste. If it is stopped, let's say if the Bakor dies accidentally or something unrelated, if the zombies don't continue to get to the paste, they have a chance, not a guaranteed chance, to actually come back to themselves eventually in some way and be human again. The issue with that is culturally, they are still very much dead. The rest of the Haitian community will not acknowledge that you are alive because you died when you were buried, and you are not accepted back into the community. You're still a zombie. You have no soul, you're not a person, it doesn't count. So don't get zombified is the short answer. Now, one other thing I want to mention is actually in the Haitian Penal Code, zombification is considered murder, period. Even if the ritual doesn't work, even if the person is still walking around afterwards and is fully fine, it's considered murder because you're taking the soul out of the person. In the United States, you're actually not allowed to collect Social Security if you are a zombie. So zombies can last anywhere between 10 and 20 years once they go through the process. It's a pretty good workforce. Now, does anyone else want to come up and try zombification?
I think we made enough zombies for
Are you
today.
sure? Because
Yeah.
I always need more workers in the lab.
That was a great job.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay, fine. But
Great. All right, moving on. So now that we've talked about identifying the types of zombies, we'll go into the actual fleeing the zombies. And that leads us into the proper zombie fleeing attire. So now we move on to what to wear. So I think we have a new slide on what to wear when you're preparing to flee zombies. And honestly, I have to admit, this is a really bad thing to wear when you're fleeing zombies. I think Strix was right. I probably do need to take it off. These wings, while very knowledgeable, they're very ornamental and bulky. They give something for the zombies to really grab onto, and that's really not good.
But they're a decoy, right? Because zombie will grab it, they'll come off, and
Maybe you could totally get your friends that you don't really like to wear a decoy. Because honestly, that's not going to come off really easily. But something like a jacket or a shawl, would be great, because that way when the zombies grab it, it's a lot easier to pull out of. Whereas those, they actually had the wires down the side, so that would make it a really hard decoy.
I see. So Little Red Riding Hood hood is the good choice.
Yeah, that'd be great. If I could actually maybe get some clothes, that'd be good. And like these shoes, honestly, while they're flat, which is good, they don't have a lot of support, so they're gonna probably go. Sorry. And this dress, well, very excitingly fashionable, is not great either because like the bodice, which is really tight, and the skirt part is really fluffy and easy for them to grab, and you don't know where you're going to be going, so you need something with a lot of mobility, and you also need something where you have a lot of movement, and finally you need something that you can kind of really layer up on. So I think I really need to get rid of this too. You know, I need something where I'll be good for any sort of terrain. What is it? James, seriously? I don't like getting peek in here. I'm not trying to. Okay, so at least now I have a little more mobility and I can move around. Zombies. So, let's see. Let's start. All right. So, what I would suggest that we're going to have, in addition to tank top and shorts, like I said, a jacket's really good. You don't know, you might be going somewhere where it would get cold. And again, if you have something where a zombie might bite you, hopefully you're not going to get that close to them, but at least if it's a light bite, if it doesn't go through the clothes, that could mean the difference between life and death. I definitely suggest long pants. Again, you want as little exposed skin as possible, both because the zombie might bite you and because of the elements. You don't want to escape the zombies just to die of the cold. That would be kind of pretty lame. So I'm gonna put on some pants and make sure you have good shoes. In addition to good shoes, don't forget socks. Socks are really important. You're gonna have to do a lot of walking. You know, you don't know if you're gonna have access to what kind of transportation, except you know you'll have your feet. So in addition to the good shoes, ideally it'd be great to have some sturdy combat boots, but a next best thing would be a good pair of sneakers. And you don't want your feet blistering up, so ideally some nice padded socks are also great. And to really show you guys what sort of attire is appropriate, what isn't appropriate, we've actually arranged for a little fashion show for you. So let's hit it. I love this part. And of course, we have our test zombie who's going to be on the runway, because how do you really test if your attire is appropriate or not if you don't have it challenged by a zombie? All right. Now, starting off this year's fashion, we have Craig Johnson showing appropriate male attire for the post-apocalyptic world. With his jacket, he clearly shows that you can be fashionable while still fighting off zombies. Note his t-shirt and pants give him good mobility while still being dark enough to camouflage. Note his combat boots, which are steel-toed, and able to go through various types of terrain and still protect his feet. Hat also providing additional coverage. Our assistant Emily Green providing also female attire in various layers for multiple types of terrain and nice flat shoes for walking. And finally, our Professor Emily, who actually, or Professor Strix, who's wearing actually really terrible clothes and will probably and this year in Zombie Couture is James, who's modeling the latest in zombie fashion with our Zombie Test Lab shirt and raging, pussy, bloody wounds.
And thriller-inspired dance moves.
All right, let's give it up for our fashion model. Thank you. Thank you all. Now, let's talk about brains.
Brains!
Well, not eating them. But, Craig, can you tell me briefly about brains and how that knowledge can help us to defeat the undead?
Sure. So, as most of you know, the clearest, easiest way to kill a zombie is to destroy the brain. But when we start looking at the brain and the way it functions, up here is a frontal lobe. This is where most of our cognitive and planning happens. Zombies are very limited in that way. Up here is the parietal. That controls your movement. Back here is the occipital, which is vision. Depending on which zombies you have, some of them have very poor vision. Down here is the cerebellum. This is where you get coordination, fine muscle movement. Zombies don't have this. And here's the brainstem. This is where all your basic functioning is. So the problem when you look at the zombie brain is much of the brain doesn't seem to have any effect on a zombie. So the only surefire way to kill them is to break the brainstem. And that's actually really difficult. So I'm sure you've seen the trope of the bag full of weaponry.
Ellen?
And everyone's got their favorite weapon for how to kill the zombies. So, typically, bladed weapon, sword, right? Problem with the sword is that stabbing, slashing doesn't generally hurt a zombie. You need to take the head off. That's really, really hard unless you're really good. So we'll get rid of that. So it's easier to crush a skull, right? But once again, when you get into melee combat with a zombie, you're in danger. So you think to yourself, gun, right? Because with a gun, you can shoot the zombie at a distance. But every time you fire a gun, every zombie within a quarter of a mile comes running. So in reality, don't fight a zombie unless you absolutely have to. If you win, one less zombie. If you lose, you're dead. What I would recommend is not carry a specific weapon, but carry a tool. Carry something you're going to use for other things.
A shovel.
This is my preference. It's a key for any door, opens trunks, breaks through windows, and in the case of a zombie, it's about 6 to 8 pounds of tempered steel, which you can very easily smash into a leg or a kneecap. Yes?
Oh, no, I just want to see the picture. Excuse me, please.
About like,
Excuse me, please.
so if you have a sword but it's dull, if the handle is really heavy, could you possibly use that to kill a zombie?
Possibly. It's not a matter of whether it's dull or sharp. It's a matter of how much force you need to really break a skull and really do the kind of damage you need. Skulls, oddly enough, are very hard, designed to protect the brain. So you're often better off aiming for other limbs.
Can I point out, by the way, what a disservice it is when you watch The Walking Dead or many zombie films, particularly those in Italy, where people stab through people's heads as if they're made of overripe cantaloupes?
I wish.
Oh, that gets you chocolate. And you get chocolate too, Preston. Great question.
And of course, when you're fighting zombies, you have to determine what their actual vulnerabilities are. If they're still alive, you can just stick them full of holes and let them bleed out. If they're undead and unkillable, all you can do is cripple them. So you need to determine what the weaknesses and strengths of your zombies are, and then try to remember, only fight when you have to. Because, frankly, I don't see anyone in this room I think is really a great melee fighter.
Let him.
Oh, she gets a chocolate? You nearly got
My
it.
sister.
Okay.
Now, if you only, chop the zombie's head off at the eye level, you might not get any parts they use, right? If you Jane Mansfield them.
It's hard to say because the major motion control in the brain, the movement control, is up at the top center. So it's hard to say exactly what they are and aren't using. So the only surefire thing we know they're using is their brainstem.
Okay. So it's not like a chicken where you can cut the head off badly and they can still live.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, the reason that works is that the chicken's brainstem goes down far into their neck.
Yeah.
So if you cut high enough, you're leaving the brainstem intact. Yes?
What about crippling the zombie's mobility by cracking his spine?
That's a possibility too, but the problem is the spine is behind them. And generally, trying to get behind a zombie is just endangering yourself too much.
Say look that way.
Yeah, if you're already behind the zombie, you should go the other way. And if you're in front of the zombie, you should go the other way.
I've been very confused by some documentaries that I've seen where they chop off a zombie's head, and sometimes the zombie's head seems to still in fact be alive, but I always assumed that if you chopped off a zombie's head, the body is dead and the head is dead. So I need information.
Well, so if you're talking about hellmouth zombies, they can't die. There's no killing a hellmouth zombie because there's nowhere for it to go. You just cripple the body and then it lives in whatever pieces you've left it in. Yeah.
Yeah, because, the hellmouth zombie, you chop off the arm, the hand's going to crawl after you.
Sure.
Rudy.
And then if you're talking about a voodoo zombie, you just go kill the master.
Well, Walking Dead scenario perhaps.
Yeah.
You chop off the head. Is that head in fact going to start biting you? Should you avoid the head?
For safety's sake, you should always avoid the body.
Okay.
Because if it's viral, getting near the body and the bodily fluids could transfer the virus to you.
Just something else I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I frequently see documentary footage of people killing zombies with machetes, but they're not wearing facial protection over their eyes, their mouths, and there's spray all over them. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what are these people, contaminating themselves with?
Cooties.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea.
So
That's dumb.
anytime you have an outbreak of zombieism, you need to determine what exactly is the cause, or whether or not you can get it spread through blood, through whether you need to be bitten, whether you need to die. These are the kind of things you need to figure out as soon as possible so you can fight them.
If it could be transferred just by being around them, like through breathing, then would the gas mask help?
Probably, but you should still stay the hell away. If you know that it can be transferred just from being near them, then gas mask or no, stay away. Yes?
Yeah, but it might help a little.
Wouldn't a gas mask, wouldn't a gas mask prevent you from smelling a zombie, which is one of the first lines of defense?
Possible.
A gas mask the filter only works for a half hour to an hour depending on the gas mask. And two, if the zombie virus goes airborne, forget it, by humanity. There is no survivors.
Yeah, at that point, unless you can get a sizable distance from the rest of humanity.
It's basically if you're in the cellar of the CDC where all the air is being filtered for the next 10 years, forget it.
Or if you were out on an island out in the Pacific somewhere, like Hawaii, you might be okay.
And even then,
Iron
eventually, airborne virus will eventually get
Well, it depends on the lifespan of the virus. Some viruses only stay viable for hours in the air. Also, a lot of gas masks and air filters don't filter fine enough to stop viruses. They are particulate, therefore sanding, therefore keeping sawdust and various kinds of dust and debris out of your lungs. So you should probably check to make sure that it's actually going to stop viruses.
All right. Well, thank you, Craig. All right. So now that we've thoroughly bled, you have a question?
Yeah. Is it possible to take zombie then?
No.
To what is zombie?
Well, unless you're a voodoo priest of many, many years and you've spent your life dedicated to magic, then maybe you could control a zombie. But I don't think that's really an option for us.
Yeah. In general, if it's viral or if it's hellmouth, the answer is no. So don't. Generally, it's better to avoid them, not try to tame them. They're not pets.
I'm sorry, are you going to be covering hillbilly torture zombies, or is that like a different panel?
We do have a Q&A at the end where we can bring that up.
Okay.
It's not specifically covered here, but we can definitely bring it up at the end.
Because I need to ask you about that later.
Okay, definitely. But now that... Yes.
In the case of the Hellmouth zombies, which are supernatural creatures,
Yes.
are there any supernatural defenses that you can use?
So I have not seen any references in any literature that supernatural defenses work. I know silver's commonly used. Stakes are used for vampires. I have a general rule: if you stake it through the heart, cut off its head, and light it on fire, that probably will do it.
Not just one of, but all of the above. Strix as our mythology expert.
So as the resident myth expert, I would say that there is no literary evidence. There is no indication that anything at that point would be viable. The only thing that you maybe could count on is literally divine intervention. Angels with fiery swords. That might do it, but on your own, not so much. So
I would say from watching Buffy, stabbing Angel in the heart seemed to work, but that's just from watching Buffy. Yes.
This is a very unbalanced panel. Is there not an advocate for zombiehood?
no.
This panel is specifically designed on how to survive the zombie apocalypse, not how to promote the zombie apocalypse. That one I think is next door, but I might be making that up just now.
No.
There is no exit in this panel. Once you come in, you don't come out.
Are meat grinders a reasonable, mode of zombie disposal?
It's not reasonable, but it is amusing.
Or the automated coal chute feeder things that.
Are you just gonna stand still while you grind?
If you can develop.
Well, as the body part gets caught, we've all heard the story of the person gets the tie or the arm.
Sir,
or
as a
whatever.
zombie, I find your remarks offensive yet hilarious.
You're welcome.
He can talk!
Thank you.
No,
All right,
it was
we
just
better
funny.
move on.
All right.
Questions for the Q&A.
So we will have a Q&A afterward, but I think right now we need to move on to survival, because that's very key once you've fled the zombies. No, we haven't. There just was no slide for survival.
That's fine.
So go back. Yes.
What?
We did weapons. We just didn't move the slide.
We don't have a slide for me.
That's right.
All right.
Hit things.
So
But try
I'm
not
gonna talk about survival a little bit. This is where my park ranger experience comes in.
To demonstrate. Do you want me to hold it?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that we're going to mention. Obviously, we can't inclusively cover everything. We can give you guys the really bare bone basics so that maybe you could kind of have a chance. I don't know why, because I'd rather have the chances myself, but we're trying to be fair here. So probably the first thing you want to do is walk away. And I mean that quite literally. So LA, for instance, is a really high population area. The first thing you want to do is get away from other people, get away from potential sources of more zombies. I would not suggest trying cars. I would not suggest trying motorcycles. You will kill yourself. I wouldn't really even suggest boats. The best way out is literally to put on some really, really good shoes and walk. So while you're walking, you're going to want to pick up a backpack. I have an Osprey, but I'm not promoting any brands. Work really well for me in South America. What you're going to want to pick up are non-perishable foods, so things like beef jerky, dried fruit, anything that's going to stay. If you are planning on picking up canned goods, you do want to watch out, if it's been a while, for botulism. And it's really easy to tell if something that you're going to eat is going to be bad for you. If the can is dented or if it is blown up, like from the inside, kind of puffy, do not eat it. There are bacteria in there that when you ingest will kill you. That is botulism. Don't do it. Now, as for water, you may have in the beginning, resources for bottled water. You may be able to work with the infrastructure before it collapses. That's fine. But at some point, you're going to have to find water that is either contaminated, it comes from the wild. You're going to have to do something about it before you drink it. Now, the general rule of thumb anywhere in the world is that you need to boil any kind of water that you're going to use for at least 20 minutes. I mean, rolling boil for 20 solid minutes. I was in South America doing research for my dissertation for about 7 or 8 months, and I boiled my water, and I still got really sick. So don't be too cautious with that. That can take you down just as easily as a zombie can. And it's really hard to run away from a zombie when you have diarrhea. It's not a pretty picture. So avoid that, drink boiled water. Now, where you flee to as part of your survival really depends on what's going on with the zombies. Again, if it's viral zombies, as we've been referring to them, probably colder climates is where you want to head, just because it will probably be harder for a virus to spread under those conditions. Hellmouth zombies, good luck. Voodoo zombies, you want to head to wherever the Bakor is, the bad practitioner of magic, and you want to get rid of them, because eventually that will get rid of the zombie. So if it's voodoo zombies, run away from the zombie, find the guy who made the guy the zombie. Good luck taking him down. So any really brief questions about surviving with food and water and where to go?
Just one comment.
Yes.
Other panels I've been to about this, my favorite is Fortress Costco.
That's a really bad idea, and I'll tell you why. So you have to remember that you are not the only one running for your life, right? There are lots and lots of other people who are thinking the exact same thing that you are thinking, and assume they are bad people. Just assume it. No one is going to be nice to you, everyone's out for themselves. When you go to hit up food locations, it's better to hit up an actual warehouse in a storage district than a convenience store or a grocery store or a Costco. Costco seems great, it's a really bad idea.
Likewise, Walmart.
Anywhere where there are large stores of food where everyone knows where it's at, that is where you do not want to be, because that's where all the stupid people are going to be, all the bad people are going to be, and all the zombies chasing them. So be a little bit more clever than that. Yes?
What about a bicycle?
Bicycles are good and bad if you know how to ride a bike, because I don't assume everyone does. That's great, but make sure that you know how to repair it. You might want to grab a repair kit, heading out of the REI. The other thing is, you may or may not have roads. With mountain bikes, they can traverse some terrain, but you need to be really careful. I used to actually be an extreme mountain biker, and I fell off a cliff onto my face and almost died. So mountain bikes are also dangerous. You want to minimize any kind of injury to yourself, so any kind of machinery is going to give you a risk of getting hurt, which you can't really afford to do. All right, so we're going to close that up, save the rest of the questions.
All right, so to kind of help demonstrate how to survive in post-zombie land, we're going to do a little cooking demonstration. So can I get someone who's maybe a little culinary adventurous to help me kind of do a quick little cooking demonstration? All right, why don't you come on up?
Yay! You're very brave.
You volunteered the first time, so we'll have her volunteer. Hi, I'm Brandy. Rosie. All right, come over here, Rosie. So what kind of things do you normally cook?
Just about anything. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so if you need
If it doesn't move, you can eat it.
pretty much,
Okay.
up to including rattlesnakes or, crickets.
Okay, well here's some seasoning and a bowl. Let's see,
The zombie toxin.
a plate. Oh yeah, that's zombie toxin. Never mind.
Yeah.
And I think we use that to mix the zombie toxin. Here's a plate, a fork. And so step number one is our canned goods. Now check for botulism.
I'm looking for dents if there's a dent there.
Okay, those are pretty tiny dents from moving it around today, but do you see it being bloated or anything like she mentioned?
No bloating.
Okay, well then step two would be to open it up, so if you could do that, and here you can set the plates down.
It has a pop top, by the way, which is really good in case you don't have a can opener.
That's a good point. Okay, and then step three would be to take a bite.
Chug, 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 chug.
Assuming I can get it out.
Yay!
1, 2, 3.
Not dead.
There you go! That's cooking during the apocalypse.
Yay!
Here's the prize. It's the Zen of Zombie.
And she can keep the can, because I don't think anybody else wants to eat out of it now.
If you're really into spam, go for it.
I don't think she does either.
Whatever. Well, I noticed the thing says cookie. with the Knoweldge Fairy. What if you can't find Knoweldge Fairy during the zombie?
That is why I'm teaching you right now. So I hope you were taking notes on those last few minutes.
So I was gonna say, zombie apocalypse, I'm not gonna use a plate, I'm gonna use what they came in.
So normally we'll garnish that with some parsley, but during the apocalypse you might not have any.
Get it?
And had we had this seminar 2 weeks ago, you would have gotten a Twinkie, but
Oh.
all right. So that really covers the time we have for the survival phase. So now we're going to move on to phase 3, which is rebuilding society. Because assuming you have fled the zombies and survived the zombies, now we're going to rebuild society. Yay! So how do you guys think you should rebuild society? Any suggestions? Pardon?
Woodburn.
Lots of duct tape.
On an island.
On an island. Great.
Dangerous.
You can throw the chocolate.
Farming.
If someone sees my bracelet later, I'd
Old
like it
school
back.
farming tools.
I mean, that wasn't a gift.
Yeah.
No,
I
I
think
give
it was
chocolate.
going to here.
All right. How else do you rebuild society? Everything is in chaos.
Find out if any of the teachers survived.
Teachers. That sounds good.
Duct
What
tape.
else?
Lots of duct tape.
Duct tape.
Get red green.
Red, green. All right. What else? How else are you gonna rebuild society? So we're gonna give teachers, duct tape,
Legos.
Legos. We'll probably need to build things. That's a start.
We'll need a next generation eventually.
Well,
That's okay. We're gonna get busy with it.
Is this one of those
But first
scenarios
we
where
need
you'll use
somewhere to
one for
live.
breeding purposes?
Well,
Possibly.
assuming the zombies are all gone, first thing you have to do is go through the cities and see what has survived. I mean, have the solar panels survive? Because honestly, solar power is going to be the most viable thing. Because chances are we've burned a lot of wood and the air is already as polluted as we can stand it.
Sure.
Solar panels and resources.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure.